I don't mind people taking psychedelics or any drugs for this matter. You do whatever you want to do with your body.
If it's now the popular thing and the people that you admire are taking the psychedelics, then maybe it could become a gateway drug.
What the good seller is able to do is put you in a state of mind that's going to make you want to achieve a certain state.
There's a rumour going around that it's a good idea to take psychedelics, that it's going to lead you to some nirvana, some state of inner enlightenment, to see how the world works and how everything comes together. And maybe there's some truth in that. Some people seem to suggesting that they've had epiphanies when taking hallucinogenic drugs. And so that's quite attractive, because we're all searching and we want to improve ourselves and understand things better, because life's a confusing experience. But is it a good idea to promote drugs? What are the dangers? What could be some of the negative outcomes? And it does appear to me that there's a big difference in who you are, what your situation is in life already, because this plays into you taking a drug, because it's you that's taking the drug. So you can't eliminate yourself from the experience. You're part of that experience. And so if your situation is pretty dire, taking hallucinogenic drugs has the potential to make it a lot worse. And so if you can afford to go off to a retreat and have a hallucinogenic experience with other people that are there to give you support and make sure that, take away the risks. That's what people do. So people go and they experience new things. Usually people with a bit of money, and to get somebody who has the experience, who has the knowledge, some expert. You go on a tour down the Grand Rapids or whatever, and you have a guy who knows that if things goes wrong, he knows what to do. He's got all the equipment, he's got the technology to contact somebody, he's got the know-how, he's got the experience to help you out of that situation. And so you feel a little bit safer. It's a different experience because he's there. If he wasn't there, that's a dangerous experience. And it's the same with psychedelics. If you've got somebody there who's going to lead you through that experience, it's potentially a safer situation than if you've got a situation, a life that there's a lot of uncertainty. Some people don't have the money to get them out of situations that are dangerous. They don't have the safety net. They just have the life they're in. And
that's
so psychedelics in that situation, yeah.
That's what annoys me. Because these people who are so wealthy, usually their life is filled with joy. It's filled with the things to look for. Whereas many people who consider taking psychedelics to begin with are people who are not that happy with their life. So that's quite a crucial part. And yes, what you're saying is also important. But I think that the idea is oversold by these people who experienced it. Sometimes I feel like the videos that they're creating is like an advertisement promotion rather than reality. So why I think that? I think that many of these people are going down that route of these retreats, so on and so forth, only for the sole purpose of creating a video afterwards. So they already have a preconceived idea what they're going to experience, and that they want to capture that experience and present it to some other people. So that's why sometimes I think that even though the experience may be very pleasurable to them at the time, it may not necessarily be as good as they're trying to sell. What the good seller is able to do is put you in a state of mind that's going to make you want to achieve a certain state. So whether it's a new car, or whether it's a new hi-fi, or whatever that is, if they're going to spark your interest through the way that they will explain what they felt, that's what's going to instill in you this strong desire that you would want it. Why we're having this discussion today? I think that many people think that they're going to find some sort of answers, in these psychedelic experiences. That's why they are willing to pursue that desire. But I think that maybe we should think twice whether or not we really want to do it.
So you're describing something different. What I'm describing is the circumstances are different for different people. So if you're not in a great situation, then that's going to impact the experience you have taking psychedelic drugs. What you're describing is that you have a fear that they're cooking the books. So when you produce something, there's a pressure upon you. So if Ben Mariusz are going to take a video, make a video about Ben Mariusz's experience taking psychedelic drugs, and we're going to document the experience, and we know in our heads there's a video being made at the end of that. Just that knowledge changes how that experience is going to go to some extent. And yes, there's a potential that people could cook the books. That's your fear, and your fear is that other people see that, and they see that misrepresentation that is made to look like this experience was fantastic, and it's like, oh, look at Ben and Mariusz, they had such an amazing experience. Ben and Mariusz's exciting adventure, and other people be like, oh damn, we want to go on that adventure as well. And I think you're absolutely onto something there. And it's a danger, not just with psychedelics, but also with this whole, what's the word? The word is voyeurism. So I kind of started with the Big Brother sort of programs. It was the island one that they had initially, where these people are on this island and we're all watching their lives, the island just off the coast of Scotland. And then it moved on from there to Big Brother, and then Gogglebox, and all these things where you're watching other people experiencing, and it's this kind of like, initially it's kind of got a real element, and then it seems to wander off where everybody knows they're being watched, and so they change. These people just seem like actors because they love the limelight and they love to be watched. And there's something really unhealthy and unreal about that for people, because they're thinking this is reality. This is their reality because it's the thing they're focusing on. I think this is who they're taking the lessons from. They're taking their lessons from, this is how you live, and there's a big danger in that. And that's a big danger of our preoccupation with this voyeurism. And you're right, with drugs, well, what could be there could be really bad consequences for people's life, and those consequences can be like long-term psychiatric conditions where you break your brain. Like, it's potentially what's at stake. It's like, yeah, okay, there could be some good things as well. I'm not going to bash psychedelics. I'm not saying there's no benefit.
Of course.
But this is a risky substances.
And that's the reason why I wanted to talk about it today, because this is not something I hear on YouTube at all. All I hear is this great promotional campaign that this is probably one of the best experiences that you're going to have in your life, that it will change your life, change the way you think. It will, evoke this innate love towards other people. And even if, all of that, is true, what if the small number of people will end up with their mind completely scrambled? And I think this is too grave of a risk to take. This is just my approach. Maybe I'm being overly cautious, but that's the problem. Being this idea being so oversold these days, and you will go on many of these self-help channels, and many of these guys will promote it, openly. And I don't mind people taking psychedelics or any drugs for this matter. You do whatever you want to do with your body. That's absolutely fine. But once you get to the point that you're trying to basically sell that idea to other people, when you try to convince them that, the best way to get to the point of entitlement is to take drugs, and without these psychedelic drugs, you will never be able to fully understand what the other person is trying to convey to you. And this is something that I strongly disagree with. And, having children, I know how potentially damaging and dangerous something like that can be.
There is a potential irresponsibility within the promotion of psychedelics. And yes, it's popular. People watch your videos. It's interesting. It's a little bit dangerous. And that little bit of danger, that's what makes it exciting. That's what gets the dopamine flowing through your mind. And yeah, we need dangerous things. I'm not against dangerous things. I think there's benefit to that as well. It's exciting. We need a bit of excitement in life. I think it's one of our requirements to live a well-adjusted, functional life. But that's the problem with salesmen. That's the problem with people who will sell anything without proper care for the consequences, without proper care for how is this going to affect. It's almost like what's the worst case scenario? What's the example of the worst case scenario? Is the drug dealer who stands at the school gates, sort of trying to introduce children to drugs, knowing that he's setting himself up with potential clients later on.
And think about what's happening right now. there's no need for the dealer standing in front of the school's door. Right now, they've got access to YouTube. So right now, these young minds can get exposed to these ideas through the screen. So that's the potential risk.
It is.
Because when you have an adult brain, it's a completely different story. When you're completely developed, it will have completely different effects on your mind. But the reality is that probably majority of people who are interested in these type of experiences are way younger people. And that's where the biggest risks potentially lie. Sorry, that was just me interjecting something.
I mean, it was an extreme example. I'm not saying that people on YouTube making these videos, I don't think they're like that. I don't think they're like drug dealers. I'm just looking at the dangers of this model where you're not really caring for people. You're just trying to sell your thing. And it's people are making videos and you have to produce, and they're excited and they're doing something they love. Like those guys are not the drug dealers. They're just trying to do something exciting.
Of course.
But I think you and I are concerned that for people, because we want to see people living more productive. It's not about productivity. It's about living lives that are good lives.
Fulfilled life.
Fulfilled
Happy
for
life,
them, and that help other people. And I think that's the danger. Is those are big consequences for somebody whose mind gets broken and finds himself entwined in the psychiatric system, and the effect that has not just on them, but on the other people that are involved with them, their family, their parents, uncles, friends, everybody, kids. You spoke about children, and children psychedelics would be probably a different topic than adults in psychedelics, but I would say adults are also vulnerable.
They are. But
they're different.
When I meet children, when I meet children, I'm talking about 17, 18, 20-year-olds. These are still children. Technically speaking, they're adults. But the reality is that the brain development does not finish until the age of 25. So basically, anything you will do to your mind so drastic that, promotes such a high level of neuroplasticity to these experiences can be, potentially very, very damaging. And it could be perhaps a gateway to other drugs. If you feel that huge release of dopamine as a result of experiencing these things, yes, vast majority of people won't get addicted, but there will be some percentage of people who's going to want to pursue that experience more and more. This could potentially lead to them trying other drugs that could have a way more damaging effects, to their life, long term and short term. So you know how it is. Normally, as long as the person stays away from drugs of any kind, it takes a lot before they'll take that first step. However, once they cross that line, there's nothing stopping them.
Well, that's the idea. That's the argument with gateway drugs. And it's complicated. There's lots of different elements. And one element, so psychedelics are not traditionally thought of as gateway drugs.
Yeah, of course.
Because they're
not very
something.
Addictive. That's what the science says.
That you don't desire to take psychedelics and then take them the next day and the next day. Whereas like maybe cannabis, alcohol, other drugs, you maybe
amphetamine,
have
cocaine.
More of an so certainly cannabis is usually fingered as the gateway drug, but maybe in a way there's another aspect, and the other aspect is there's a level to drugs. Like people like to organise things, whether they're in a group and it's like, what's the pecking order? Well, there's a bit of a pecking order with drugs, and partly that's how illegal are they and what are the consequences. That's the way we arrange things in our minds, and it's always been that psychedelics they're pretty high, and in the consciousness of people, the framework is like cannabis is a lower down sort of thing. You can have a smoke for a start, and then it's not going to last forever or whatever. Whereas it's a bit more involved to take psychedelics, and also the association. It's like there's been a negative association in society that psychedelics are like those weird hippie trippy people like that. If you're an athlete or a sportsman or some sort of member like that in society, the idea is not so much that you're going to be into psychedelics. The association that those people are, and so in some ways that's a deterrent. Whereas if it's now the popular thing and the people that you admire are taking the psychedelics, then maybe it could become a gateway drug. Maybe it's not just as simple as the addiction thing. There's other aspects to it. So I think you're right. Like what's been is not necessarily what will always be. things change. So yeah, I think you're right. I think there's a dangerous aspect to blind promotion of something that's potentially quite potent and quite dangerous. And I know people kind of think, oh well, we'll give her a little warning and say, beware, kids. These could be potentially dangerous substances and should only be taken in a controlled environment when you've got specialists and all the rest of it. But like you say, not everybody can afford that luxury.
And for some people, this is not going to work as a deterrent. In fact, once they see all these things, especially when you're young, you're going to think, well, I need to try this. If they're telling me not to try it, this is probably what I need to do. I need to go on the bandwagon and I need to see what's the deal with that stuff.